Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by SDSU family of companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOW or visit billhow.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
San Diego State is shooting its best shot at college basketball's March Madness tournament. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Matt Hoffman in for Maya Trabulsi. The Aztecs are playing their biggest game of the tournament. It's out of state today, but fans are still gathering at SDSU's home court to support their team. KPBS reporter Jacob Baer is live outside of Viejas Arena now. Jacob, what's the latest?
Hi, Matt. The Aztecs are about to finish a March Madness game with a lot on the line. They're playing the #1 overall seeded team, Alabama, and it is a nail-biter at the moment. It's a do-or-die game for this team, and earlier today we actually spoke with some folks who are inside Viejas Arena, and even though the game is being played in Kentucky, there's hundreds of people inside there cheering on the team, and we spoke with a couple of them earlier today.
The country will realize that we do belong to be in the big game. And that's what I look forward to. This is our year.
To be here is just building community, like being here with other fans. See, like this hype, to be here and support.
The tournament started off with 64 teams just over a week ago, and soon there will be just 8 remaining. This is SDSU's 3rd Sweet 16 appearance, and they're trying to make it their first in the Elite 8. And the crowd is on the edge of their seats here. SDSU is trailing midway through the second half, but it's very close, and they're holding on to a slim lead right now. Matt?
That game is really close. All right, Jacob, so if this game comes down to the wire, if the Aztecs can pull this off, what's next for them?
So the Aztecs, and I misspoke, they're actually trailing by just a couple, but if they are able to pull off the upset, they'll move on to the Elite 8 and play either Creighton or Princeton Sunday night, and that would be the first time they've ever made it that far in the tournament.
A lot of people waiting to... The San Diego Wave, they're kicking off a new season this weekend. Meet one of the team's newest players who grew up playing soccer in North County. Testing for a deadly disease at a San Diego State building has come back, and some bacteria was found. Earlier this month, SDSU closed its Exercise and Nutritional Sciences building. That was after a faculty member tested positive for Legionella pneumonia. Professor Michael Buono later passed away from the infection. The university has been testing for Legionella bacteria, and a low amount was found in the ENS annex. SDSU is disinfecting both ENS buildings. That's expected to take about a month before they can reopen. Reynolds Elementary parents found out where their children will go to school next year. It comes after the Oceanside School Board voted to close the school over safety concerns. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne has the latest.
Unstable soil underneath Reynolds Elementary School led to the decision to close down the school at the end of this school year, a decision many parents didn't like. In a meeting last night, the board presented the future plans for Reynolds students and staff.
We're going to be merging a large portion of the current Reynolds area with the Libby. This does not interrupt Libby at all. And then you have the upper portion that has about 63 students up there. That would merge with the Del Rio area, and that does keep those students within 2 miles walking distance of Del Rio.
The window for parents to choose a different school in the district will be extended for Reynolds families until April 21st. Plans for staff will depend on those selections. Students and staff in the bilingual immersion program will be kept together and transferred to Fusa Elementary School. The plans raise transportation concerns.
Some households only have 1 car, as I heard in the meetings. If their children have to walk far to these new sites, what is the district planning to do for these non-IEP students?
From our home, which is on Big Sur Street, to Libby, it is a 29 29-minute walk. 29 minutes, that's a lot to ask of a young child to walk by themselves to and fro school, across busy streets.
Sí, necesito que haya transportación.
I really need transportation.
A donde quiera que lo cambien.
To wherever he's going to be moved to.
Y pues en todas las juntas que he ido.
And in all the meetings that I've been present.
Que no tienen transportación, que no van a pagar transportación.
They have told me that there's no transportation and that it won't be available either.
The school district says the budget for transportation is $5.7 million, and they currently transfer fewer than 300 students at that rate. Board Clerk Mike Blessing said transportation isn't likely to be extended soon.
I don't have the answer for transportation for you. I'm going to ask you to just stick with us as you go through the selection of the school that makes sense for you in the next couple of months, and we'll see what we can come up with. But I cannot promise that to you at all come August. It just is not feasible for us to do that. If we can get something going at the state level, there's maybe hope there.
The district will explore creative transportation options with the support of parents and city buses. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
President Biden is making his first official visit to Canada since entering the White House. The president and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau took on a range of topics, from the Chinese spy balloon to immigration. Mike Valerio has the latest.
An overdue visit between North American next-door neighbors and gratitude from the get-go.
We're lucky. We have Canada to our north. Share these values.
A Chinese spy balloon in the air and migration from the U.S. to Canada on the ground among the top orders of business as President Biden addressed Canada's parliament.
Canada and the United States have had each other's backs in war and in peace.
Today, a new agreement on immigration at America's northern border. Migrants crossing illegally into Canada coming through unofficial crossings on rural roads. Those migrants can now be turned back into the U.S. as they wait for their asylum claims to be processed.
The United States and Canada will work together to discourage unlawful border crossings and fully implement the updated Safe Third Country Agreement.
Then there's defense. The U.S. asking Canada to spend more and speed up the timeline for defense spending, including on NATO. Also, discussions on countering China, a spy balloon crossing through Canadian airspace before flying over the continental U.S., and allegations of Chinese interference in Canadian elections looming large.
There are also areas in which we're going to have to directly challenge China, whether it's on human rights, whether it's on security behaviors, whether it's on cyber attacks or concerns like that.
Mike Valerio, KPBS News.
Some state water restrictions are going away, thanks in part to all the recent rain in California. California Governor Gavin Newsom says he's no longer going to be asking residents to voluntarily cut their water use by 15%. Newsom is also moving to ease restrictions on local water agencies. For most people, that means removing limits on when and how often their lawns can be watered. Rain has filled up many reservoirs across the state, and there's a lot of snow in the mountains that will soon melt over the coming weeks. TikTok has become more than a social media network. It's now a major platform for businesses, both big and small. So what happens if it were to go away in the U.S.? That's what we asked SDSU's Miro Kopik in the Friday Business Report.
The CEO of TikTok was up on Capitol Hill yesterday. He's facing, potential, a national ban, bans by states, municipalities. It's all in different stages. From a marketing perspective, TikTok is a juggernaut. Content creators, they actually get a great value from TikTok. They get a fair amount of money. A number of these content creators actually make a living on TikTok. And if you look at TikTok compared to some of the other social media apps, the number of downloads of TikTok are more than double apps like Twitter, Pinterest, Snapchat. It's 50% more than Instagram, in terms of the most recent year of downloads. So this is a very, very popular app. It is the app that really targets those 18 to 35-year-olds. And you're going to see creators in particular who have been very successful on TikTok versus other social media platforms. And those users are going to complain mightily if TikTok is banned.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, the U.S. and Canada agree on a deal to address the growing number of migrants crossing the northern border. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
San Diego Wave FC are opening their season this weekend at Snapdragon Stadium, and it's with a new addition that's a familiar face here in San Diego. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen has the story.
With the first pick in the second round of the 2023 NWSL Draft, San Diego Wave FC select Sierra Enge from Stanford University.
That moment was a dream come true for Cardiff native Sierra Enge. With a lot of professional soccer teams showing interest in her, Enge didn't know she would be coming back home.
But closer and closer to the draft, it seemed to be more and more realistic, and it was just so fun, especially to be there with my family and so many friends and know that I was coming home.
The Wave FC specifically traded up in the 2023 draft to select Enge.
It's so exciting, honestly.
In an interview after the draft, Wave coach Casey Stoney said Enge will add a much-needed depth to the team.
She was a key target for us, so really pleased we traded up. The importance of getting Sierra to add squad depth, quality, character.
That's especially important since half of the Wave's starting lineup could be gone for part of the season because of the World Cup this summer. Growing up, sports has always been a part of Enge's life. Not surprising considering both her parents were athletes. Her dad, Brian, played soccer for Harvard and the Wichita Wings. Her mom, Cece, played lacrosse at Harvard and is the middle school girls lacrosse coach at Pacific Ridge School in Carlsbad.
My parents really didn't care what sports I played. They just wanted me to be active and have fun. And so I played softball, basketball, lacrosse, volleyball. I did horseback riding for a little bit, kind of threw myself into everything.
But ultimately, soccer won out. She fell in love with the sport.
I think I loved, the competitiveness of soccer, the way that it makes you think, the way that it challenged me every day, and I think it was something that I saw myself playing for a lot longer in the future, and so it was just what I wanted to do.
While in high school at Pacific Ridge, Enge played club soccer for LA Galaxy San Diego and SoCal Blues. While at Stanford, she contributed to the Cardinals' 2019 National Championship and 3 Pac-12 championships.
Being at Stanford, I was so lucky because we had so many players that, were even in the national team while I was there. So I feel really lucky that I was surrounded by such incredible players and people at a really young age, and I think they've just helped me get to where I am in my career now.
With San Diego being a huge soccer town, Enge says she's excited for the Wave's season opener this Saturday.
I think it's really exciting to be able to play in a city where they want to come out and they want to support. And so, yes, we're excited that we made history with, the most tickets sold for a home opener, but we want to keep making more history and sell out Snapdragon for our first game.
And she has a message for all the little girls out there. Dream big. Enge's dream this season
to lift the trophy at the end of the season with the team, and then just continue to get better every day.
Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
It's a gigantic giveaway designed to help children with literacy and learning. 1,500 books ready to be distributed to students from kindergarten all the way to high school. And as KPBS education reporter MG Perez tells us, it's all for free.
So, where were you, right? Yeah. Okay.
12-year-old Jacob Medina from the Kip Adelante Academy is reading a book in the series Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and he has some help.
A 17-year-old girl from
Holland.
Holland.
Roy Stone is a retired nurse practitioner who now tutors elementary and middle school students. He is an avid reader himself.
You're learning what they're learning, and they're learning a little bit about you as an older adult who's not their teacher or their parent.
Stone is one of almost 300 volunteers with San Diego Oasis, a nonprofit organization that helps older adults avoid loneliness and isolation. Tomorrow, those volunteers will help the younger generation read books they receive for free in a giveaway event. These are boxes filled with more than 1,500 new books. Each child who shows up can choose 3.
children are really struggling. Access to books, especially access to brand new books, means that they are more likely to read, they're more likely to enjoy reading, and they're more likely to be proud of the fact that they're reading.
The free book giveaway is happening here at the Access Youth Academy, an organization that takes education outside the box to better serve students who need support the most. The Access Youth Academy uses squash to motivate and inspire students from low-income families. The stacks of books being given away on Saturday here have been donated by corporations and individuals. Roy Stone is happy to be a part of creating this community connection.
If you really can't read and write well, then it affects everything else you do in life, whether it's mathematics or whether it's art. You still need to know how to read and write.
Jacob Medina is excited to find his new books to keep reading and learning. MG Perez, KPBS News.
And if you'd like to attend that book giveaway, it's going on from 9 o'clock tomorrow morning until noon, and it's at the Youth Access Academy on Euclid Avenue. No registration is required. A highway closure for routine maintenance is turning into an opportunity for a bike and pedestrian takeover. Tomorrow, Caltrans is closing traffic on northbound 15 between Harbor Drive and the 94. That's while crews work on the southbound lanes. People are invited to walk and bike the highway while helping to clean it up. There's going to be games and activities for kids, as well as some truck displays and art installations, even safety equipment demos too. It's part of the Clean Up California Community Days initiative. The San Bernardino mountain community is still rebuilding after it was hit hard by a winter blizzard that left thousands of people snowed in. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado went and got an update from one resident who's doing what she can to help.
When a rare winter blizzard hit the San Bernardino mountains, it dumped record snow in the communities of Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead, and Crestline. Cassandra Simbel and her family were trapped in their home for 2 weeks.
My mother-in-law was with us at the time, and my husband, we were rotating shoveling, and we had a neighbor come help us dig out too. So, our neighbors came and helped us. So that really, the fear of something happening for us was about 5 to 7 days, which is the time it took us to dig out of the driveway.
She went from relief to devastation.
I saw a lot of houses with structural damage, and I'd never seen anything like that. But we heard a lot of amazing stories, like one in particular, like she was out on the deck with her daughter shoveling that day, and then that night their deck completely collapsed.
Simbel decided to put her skills and staff at her design and construction firm, Bless This Place, to serve in her community at little to no cost.
I need to do my part to fix this. What can we do to help bring this community back and build better?
She says at times it's overwhelming and hopes more construction companies will answer the call to help. But touring homes and seeing the damage firsthand is tough.
It was just really hard to see all of those homes and those families living there, with babies, small kids, you're going into their home, and it's just, I just can't imagine.
She says with more storms pounding their community and more on the way, she's afraid more damage will happen.
A little bit of snow, a little bit of rain can what sets off a chain reaction.
She wants the people who live, work, lost homes and loved ones to know they're not forgotten. And just like the storm, the community will get through this together. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
Well, let's start you off with your weather headlines. Cold air continues, but overall a quiet weekend, though we are up in the ante heading into next week with our next storm that's going to be bringing some heavier rain by Tuesday. Tonight, though, around San Diego, we're dropping down to a low of 50. We'll have a few clouds to contend with, but overall across at least the coastal areas, Oceanside dropping down to 42, Chula Vista 45. As we head more inland, Ramona dropping down to a low of 36, Mount Laguna 31, and Borrego Springs at 46. Now tomorrow, we'll have sunshine. We're rising to the mid-60s along the coast, and as we head more inland, Ramona at 61, Borrego Springs hitting the 70s, our warmest spot on the board, and Mount Laguna hitting 39. Now, your 5-day outlook along the coast, we are staying relatively sunny. We will stay in the mid-60s too, so temperatures not really going to be changing too much until that wet weather starts to push through Tuesday into Wednesday. That's when we're expecting a couple of showers, and that's when we dip a few degrees on the mercury. Now more inland, a similar story. Temperature staying steady through the beginning of the week. Sunshine, but then showers pushing again on Wednesday, and we drop to a high of 60. The mountains, a little windy, a lot cooler by next Wednesday, but overall we're staying in the upper 30s, the low 40s through the beginning of next week, but those winds will really start to ramp up Tuesday and Wednesday. Along the deserts, we'll have plenty of sunshine. We're in the upper 60s, low 70s through Tuesday. Then we dip back down to the mid-60s on Wednesday with windy conditions. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bree Guy.
San Diego ComicCon International's sister convention is back this weekend. WonderCon is taking over the Anaheim Convention Center today through Sunday. It's run by the same nonprofit organization, but this event serves up a smaller, less crowded pop culture scene that's compared to the summer one we see here in San Diego. That means less waiting in lines for panels and more time to enjoy all of the elaborate cosplay and explore more than 900 exhibitors. Plus, attendees can purchase badges on site. For more information, go to comiccon-con.org. San Diego Opera is showcasing modern operas and even a world premiere one there next month. But it's also showcasing grand opera with its production of Puccini's Tosca. KPBS arts producer Beth Accomando takes us behind the scenes of this classic opera.
When Darth Vader first appears in Star Wars, John Williams' score tells you everything you need to know. Well, opera's been doing the same thing for centuries. You don't have to see Scarpia enter in Act 1 of Tosca. You only have to hear the ominous notes to know he's the Darth Vader of the opera.
Yeah, with the cape and the whole thing, yes, exactly. And his minions that sort of push everybody aside, yeah, it is very much like Darth Vader, actually.
Alan Hicks is directing San Diego Opera's production of Tosca.
From the moment he walks in, you are afraid of him, and everyone on stage is afraid of him. And even the people who aren't afraid of him are still afraid of him.
You very seldom get an entrance like that.
Baritone Greer Grimsley returns to sing the role of the corrupt head of police, Scarpia.
And I just make the most of it. I'd relish it.
And Hicks loves what Grimsley brings to the role.
He's very statuesque, and so he brings this physical presence to the role, this sort of ominous physical presence, but he also brings this very calculating, some of his looks and some of his pensiveness on stage. You really see into his brain, and you see him calculating his next move, and that, from an acting standpoint, is just gold for Scarpia.
He's a character we love to hate.
He's a very educated man. You would not expect someone to be as villainous as he is with as much education as he has. He believes he's doing the right thing, which garners him a certain amount of privilege along the way. So the privilege is the parentheses around his permission to clean out the revolutionaries. And so he enjoys what he does, but he doesn't see it as villainous. And I think if you play any villain, bad guy, as someone who is just a bad guy, then you lose a certain amount of interest.
But neither Grimsley nor Tosca let us lose interest. The opera serves up melodrama on a compelling, larger-than-life scale. The story is set against political turmoil in Rome in 1800. We have a fiery diva named Tosca, her idealistic lover, and the sadistic Scarpia.
He is an interesting character. He's a very complex character. I feel like he truly is a believer that the papal state, the church state, is the righteous way. But he's also a human being, which means he has flaws.
And that's where Grimsley sees the timelessness of the story.
It's about the abuse of power. It's about the abuse of privilege. It's a cautionary tale for all of us that when someone is in too much power politically, and it's not necessarily the leader, that the whole civilization can, or the whole society can go off kilter.
That might sound very familiar to those of us who've witnessed America's political scene recently. But for Hicks, it's also important to keep the opera set in 1800, as Napoleon is bringing ideas of freedom and liberty to challenge an oppressive regime. But just because it's set a long time ago doesn't mean it can't resonate for a modern audience.
One sovereign power encroaching on another. Religious fervor, corruption in power. I think all of these things are common themes, so it's very easy to understand what's happening. There's no existentialism. It's pretty straightforward.
Because it's about very primal things like love, murder, betrayal, passion, rebellion. Just like Star Wars. I mean, there's a reason it was called a space opera. So while you might not see Scarpia as Vader's father, I see a distinct lineage and think that's worth celebrating. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Finally tonight, we want to highlight another local dog in need of adoption. Two, in fact. These two boxers were found chained up on a street in Tijuana. They're believed to be mother and daughter, and over the last month, they've been receiving veterinary care at the animal pad in La Mesa. That's where they named them Shania Twain and Cheryl Crow. Might sound a little familiar. They love to go eat, play, go on walks, and snuggling with volunteers. They're looking for foster care and forever homes. If you're interested, you can find out more information at theanimalpad.org. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great evening.
KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by BillHowe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.